President Trump is fighting fake news with real news. Introducing the White House Wire. President Donald Trump and the team at the White House have come up with a brand new news aggregator. This is the White House Wire. It's very similar in style and scope to the Drudge Report, but instead of fake news headlines, it has real news headlines that have been cultivated and curated by President Donald Trump's team at the White House. They launched the initiative on X yesterday. They posted this video that says the White House now has its own wire. Read what we are reading. And if you go there, there's a bunch of stories. There's a photo of President Donald Trump yesterday when he was announcing new technological innovations and investments in the United States of America. And the headline reads, President Trump celebrates massive investments in America. If you click on it, it takes you right to the Rapid Response 47 X post where President Donald Trump is doing exactly what they said he was doing. It's the announcement of more investment from NVIDIA and other fantastic manufacturers from all over the globe coming back to the United States. Underneath the White House Wire script, which is moving at a very quick pace, there's a bunch of other articles you'll see. New data reveals strong economic momentum. 100 days of investment. Rubio announces the release of 47th unjustly detained American during second Trump administration. Exclusive. Lee Zeldin details 100 environmental actions EPA took to power the American comeback. Border shutdown tops list of Trump's successes. If you go down here, there's must listen to videos. President Donald Trump's full speech on his first 100 days in office. Secretary Kristi Noem, Trump's first 100 days, make America safe again. What President Donald Trump and the folks at the White House and in the communications office are doing is they're fighting back against the fake news. We have seen, in fact, just the other day when ABC sent Terry Moran to the White House to try to propagandize and try to catch Donald Trump in lies and mischief. What they've done is they've forced the White House to now take the matter of news gathering and distributing information into their own hands. Since there are very few, some might say no, trusted news sources left that can be totally unbiased and totally report the truth directly from the White House, just like we do here every single day. In fact, the motto of the 47 Daily Podcast is from the White House to my mouth to your ears for the next 4 years. That's exactly what it appears now the White House is doing with the White House Wire. They've decided that they are no longer going to allow the narrative to be spread by the fake news media. They are going to find the real headlines, they're going to find the real information, and they are going to put it in a place where any American can read about it. If you want to read about how Walmart expands support for American-made products and you can't find it on your regular news source, don't worry. It's right here on the White House Wire. If you want to read about Ford CEO Jim Farley saying we're building a new plant in Ohio and a new plant in Tennessee because American investment is strong and Trump's tariffs are actually positive for the American automaker instead of all the headlines you hear to the opposite. If you want the truth, if you want to know what the folks in the White House press office, what the folks in the White House communications office, what the administration, what the cabinet, what President Donald Trump himself is reading, the information that they're taking in, you can now go to the White House Wire. The address, by the way, is whitehouse.gov/wire. And yes, I think that the similarities to the Drudge Report are purposeful. Incidentally, on the other side here on the left, you can see there are links to all of President Donald Trump's social media pages, so you can continue to follow him on Truth Social and LinkedIn and X. I don't know if I'm connected with President Donald Trump on LinkedIn. It's just a post. I may have to connect with President Donald Trump on LinkedIn and send me his resume. And speaking of real news and speaking of investment, there were, of course, some big announcements yesterday from President Donald Trump about his economic agenda.
Economic agenda is about making it easier to do business in America, to create jobs in America, to hire American workers, and to build your factories here in America, not in China or any other country.
And that is, of course, something Trump continues to do. He made announcements with NVIDIA and other very wealthy investors from around the world who are now bringing their money back to the United States, bringing manufacturing and jobs and productivity back to the United States where it belongs. He discussed how Congress is on the move to work and to pass the largest tax cut cut in American history, which will make it easier for every single American to build their own personal economy and their own finances and afford the things that they think they need and they want. Because not only should corporations get tax cuts so they can come and invest in the United States of America, but Americans should get tax cuts because it's your money to begin with. And when the government takes it, as we've seen with the Doge program, they waste it. They spend it on fraudulent and abusive, again, just wastes of money. They've been funneling it into their own coffers and out of the pockets of hardworking Americans. And President Donald Trump says no more. We are going to put together a big, beautiful bill that's going to fix all of that.
But our big, beautiful bill, as I call it, our big, beautiful bill, we may name it that actually, will include 100% expensing retroactive to January 20th. So that's all the way back to just about the beginning of the year. So expensing 1 year, you take a deduction 1 year so you can build your factories right now, essentially almost tax-free if you think about it. Nobody's ever been given that. And we're going to make that expensing for a 4-year period at a full 100%. So last time we made it 1 year and you had deductions you'd do from 100% to 80 to 60 to 40 to 20 to Zippo. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep it at that level and we're going to have it for 4 years. So I believe that was one of the reasons that we had such unbelievable growth. Also, we allowed you to bring money back from outside of the country. It was impossible. You had to have 15 different law firms representing you. It was so complicated. And worse was that the tax rate was 65%. I lowered the rate substantially, but still a lot. You know, we shouldn't take your money just to hold you hostage, right? So we lowered it to a reasonable amount. And we took in trillions of dollars, came back. Apple brought in a tremendous amount of money. A lot of the companies here.
And that is exactly what President Donald Trump is doing now with his new initiative. That's exactly what Donald Trump wants to accomplish with the big, beautiful bill, which he's going to, maybe we'll call it that, Triple B, the BBB, the big, beautiful bill that's going to reverse all the economic devastation we saw in the last 4 years of the Joe Biden administration. And it's going to plant the seeds of fantastic economic growth for the future, not just for the next 4 years, but for the next 40 or 400 years, which was Donald Trump's plan all along. Donald Trump just doesn't want to be the greatest president of 2025, 2026, 2027, or 2028. He wants to be the greatest president of all time, and he wants to do it by making America the greatest country there ever has been and solidifying our position on top of the heap. Of all 192 countries in this world, he wants us to be number one, not just today, not just for his administration's term, but for eternity. And that's why these things are moving so quickly, and that's why they're moving so expediently. The Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA, was at the White House. Here's the investment he's bringing back to the United States, thanks again solely to President Donald Trump's leadership.
And one of the most brilliant men that you'll ever meet, the man that's done in a short period of time something that is incredible. He's the founder, CEO, and president of NVIDIA. Jensen Huang, he's producing up to 500 billion over the next 4 years to manufacture the most powerful AI chips entirely in the USA for the first time ever. Jensen, would you come up and say a few words? This is a smart cookie.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to be here. NVIDIA reinvented computing for the first time after 60 years. In fact, Ervin at IBM knows quite well that the computer has largely been the same since the 60s. The IBM System 360 described really quite perfectly the computer that we use today. Central processing units, operating systems, the separation of hardware and software.
And he gets into more of an explanation. But the big news is, the exciting news is he's bringing about $500 billion into the United States over the next 5 years. And anyone who knows about NVIDIA and AI technology knows that bringing this kind of investment into the United States is great for several reasons. Number one, it's money that doesn't go to China. And when you weaken your enemy by strengthening yourself, that's a double win. The other great exciting thing about it is that it's AI technology which holds the future of really all power, economic power, technological power, military power into the future here in the United States of America. So we won't be reliant on other countries for this kind of AI software generation. Also, AI requires a lot of energy, which is going to boost energy production in the United States of America, and that's even more money for our economic growth. So it is overall an incredible investment to have these AI technology firms coming back to the United States of America, not just for our financial security, but for our national security, and again, to protect our future. Now, in the middle of all that, President Donald Trump also appeared on News Nation in kind of it was a virtual roundtable. He was on the phone, and Stephen Smith and Chris Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly, who's looking really old, were hosting a panel with President Donald Trump, and they asked him all kinds of questions, and they asked him all kinds of stuff, and they asked him, of course, about tariffs and the economy and why he was fluctuating on particular tariffs, especially when it came to the auto industry. And here is Donald Trump explaining again, because people keep asking me about it, how he handles his tariff policy, which is not chaotic, but it is flexible.
Well, the problem is Chris, is I have to be flexible because as you do things in life and in business, you need flexibility. You can't just be hard line and I'm going to run right through a wall and I'm never going to go over it or around it. I'm going to go straight. You have to be able to dodge and move and be flexible, and especially in business. Now, with the cars, I'm getting a 25% tariff for the people. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars, but they're hurt because they can't switch over 100% of the content of the car within a very short period of time. So they came to see me. I understood their problem, and I gave them a period of a year where I brought it down, and then another year. So I gave them a short period, 2 years, where they have to be switched over 100%, where every single part in the car is made in the USA. Now, if I didn't do that, it would have been very, very tough for them. And so what I am is flexible. And if I didn't do that, it would be very tough for these companies. And these companies, it's a transition period, Chris. And transition's an important word because as you do things, you'll say, well, it's like being on the battlefield. You're on the battlefield. Sometimes you're going to move to the left flank, but then you end up moving to the right flank. And it's very much like that in business. And frankly, it's very much like that in life.
It's very interesting to watch Chris Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly and Stephen Smith listen to the President of the United States and watch the audience and realize that he's making more sense than I guess they thought he would, or making more sense than they gave him credit for. But President Donald Trump is exactly right. We're in a battle. We're in an economic battle for the future of the United States of America, and that requires flexibility. And if you say we're going to charge to the left, but something happens and you've got to turn around and go to the right flank, you do it for survival. And Donald Trump knows that at the end of the day, he's going to win the battle, and he's going to do it by being flexible. And of course, there is no retreat. There is no standing still. What people don't realize, or what Donald Trump is trying to explain to people repeatedly, what the White House is doing is explaining that there is no way for us to stand still. We've been thrown into a hole, and we've got to climb, and we've got to get out, and then we've got to continue to rise. There's no doing the status quo destroys this country. We've been in a bad place for a long time, and now President Donald Trump and his tariff policy, they're here to turn it all around.
This is what other countries have done to us. We've been the laughing stock and the whipping post. We've been ripped off by every country practically in the world. Just ripped off on trade. And by the way, ripped off with NATO and the military too, because we supported NATO to a tune that was almost, at one point until I became president, it was close to 100%. We were spending. So we're spending on NATO to protect Europe, and then on Europe, they're ripping us off on trade. But if you look at the European Union, they've been brutal to the United States. We lose $300 billion, $350 billion a year to Europe. They don't take our cars. We take 10 million of their cars.
That's getting better,
they don't take our farm products. Right. We take their farm products. And it has to change.
And the interesting thing about this, again, when you see how I think a lot of these people that interview President Donald Trump about this kind of policy are baffled. They're shocked that he knows so much about this policy. And really, I think Donald Trump runs circles around them to the point where they don't even understand half the time how intricate this problem has become and how intricate Donald Trump's plan to save the country is. In fact, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett was talking to, I want to say it was Larry Kudlow, and he mentioned specifically that Donald Trump is a policy nerd. Donald Trump is deep into the policy, knows the policy better than anyone, and that's how come he's become such a fantastic executive when it comes to our financial future.
President Trump doesn't get enough credit for how much into the weeds he is on policy and how much he really cares about it. And look back at when he was speaking to the joint session of Congress, Larry, he said something that a lot of people didn't notice that were watching the speech, but a lot of businesses did. He said, these tax cuts will be retroactive.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Right.
He said these will be retroactive. Yes. And then all of a sudden in February and in March, we had an unprecedented capital spending boom.
Yes.
Equipment investment went up 20%. Overall business fixed investment went up 10%. I mean, it was an astonishing moment, I believe, in the history of presidential economic rhetoric, because he went into the weeds in a way nobody I've ever seen has ever said something about retroactivity in a State of the Union address, but he did it because he understood that we've got to make people know, don't wait until we pass these things. We're going to pass them, and when we pass them, things are going to take off. And then all of a sudden, after the worst January you've ever seen, we saw February and a March that's for the record books.
I've never seen Larry Kudlow that excited, by the way, about anything but the retroactive tax cuts that President Donald Trump mentioned in his State of the Union address. They really lit a fire. They really lit a fire under that guy. Listen, President Donald Trump has big plans, and he's got big dreams and goals for you and for the United States of America. And he's got a great team who's working diligently every single day on doing that. And if you want to stay abreast of what's happening, if you want to know what the White House is up to, well, you can do one of two things. You can check out the brand new White House Wire website, which is up and running now, or you can listen to our podcast every single day, the 47 Daily, which, you're listening to right now. In addition, we have a second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, because there's so much news, not just news coming out of the White House, but news from all over the world, news from all over the globe. There's stuff that you need to know about. Kamala Harris trying to return to politics, Joe Biden's dementia and his really deteriorative state now finally coming to the forefront. Any and all of these judges that are out there, not just activist judges, but now criminal judges who are trying to thwart President Donald Trump's deportation plans. All of this stuff we cover in depth in our second daily podcast called Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Every single day we're live at 1 p.m. You can download it on your Apple iTunes or your Spotify. Just search Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Download, listen, and enjoy.